you can't do an external attack. Firefighters are going to have to go on the inside of this building to actually fight this particular fire. They're going to have to be using things like high-rise packs and standpipe packs. They're going to be setting up a command center here, and they'll be using a cascade system to refill their air bottles. Now, the air bottles only carry 30 to 45 minutes of air, so you can imagine what it's going to be like to try to attack this fire, because they're going to have to climb up this many stories to get to the actual fire, and then probably immediately have to turn around and get their air packs repacked. Now, what we understand is, again, 2 separate planes have hit this. We don't understand why at this point, but we do know that 2 planes, we're not sure what size planes they were, but we think they were substantial in size, have hit the World Trade Center. This, again, is Tower 1. We do not know exactly what happened as far as to why they have hit this, but you can see that there is a big plume of smoke which is towering into the air. I would say it goes back a couple of miles at this point, even further. You can certainly see it from almost anywhere in this area. Both towers have smoke coming out of them, so it is possible at this point that Tower 2 is also on fire. It's hard for us to tell at this vantage point. As you can well imagine, police are keeping us at distance from this so that they can do the work they need to do. What we recommend to you people who are watching this from Lower Manhattan is to please turn off your water. Do not use any water that you do not need. Do not use your dishwasher. Do not use your washing machine. Firefighters need all the water pressure they can gather at this point. It's also a very good idea to stay out of Lower Manhattan. Firefighters and other emergency equipment are trying to make their way there right now. And as you can imagine, this has probably already been made an all-hands emergency. That basically means that everybody, even if people are off of work right now, they have been called in to battle this blaze. Again, for those of you who are just joining us, you are looking at live pictures of the World Trade Center. That is Tower 1 on your screen right now. 2 separate planes have hit the World Trade Center. We are not certain why that has happened, but it has happened. You can see the flames through the smoke there, and there is a very dark, nauseous fume coming out of that. We can almost smell it from where we are, which is several miles away at this point. You can also see the plume of smoke from many, many miles away. Now, again, as we said, it's going to be very hard and very difficult to battle this blaze because it is in the upper portion of this tower. Tower 2 also has smoke coming out of it, and we, again, are not sure exactly what that is about. We'll, again, try to keep you up to date with this as we get more information, but what we do know is that 2 separate planes have hit the World Trade Centers. We do have firefighters on the scene. They are going to have to do an internal battle of this blaze. They cannot do anything from the external because it's so high. Makes it very difficult to vent a fire like this as well. It also makes it difficult to battle it because they're going to have to use high-rise packs, and they're also going to have to use bottles, air bottles, and the air bottles only carry a 30 to 45 minute supply. Then they have to go back to the cascade system to refill, so they're going to have to be bringing bottles up as they fight and as they battle this throughout the morning. So it will take some time to get this cleared. There will be obviously a lot of traffic in and around downtown Manhattan. It's a very good idea to stay out of the downtown area. Please do not use your water unless you have to. Firefighters need all the water that they can garner at this point. And again, as you can see, this is still an ongoing battle. I mean, we have major flame inside this building. You can imagine the heat of this. And of course, the World Trade Center is no stranger to fire and to other problems. There was the World Trade Center bombing several years ago. Firefighters do know the layout of this building, but it has been several years since this happened. So again, there will be some new firefighters on the scene of this. As you also remember, there was a B-52 which hit the B-25, correct that, B-25, which hit the Empire State Building many years ago after the war. And so this is the second building in Manhattan to have been hit by a plane. Again, we're not sure if both planes or one plane was hit. It looks like perhaps both fire towers are on fire. We're not sure exactly what happened here. But again, two separate planes have hit the World Trade Centers. There is a major fire battling right now. Firefighters are in there for a major fight. The stairwells, of course, are how people are going to be evacuated. People will be evacuated out of these buildings. Do not, if you are watching this from the World Trade Center, do not get on an elevator. It is not a good idea to use an elevator in the middle of a fire. Obviously, the water and other fire can short out the equipment, so you will have to walk down. The World Trade Centers, of course, are among the tallest buildings in the world, making this an even more complicated fire to battle. Fortunately, the good thing that we can say is that the firefighters in Manhattan are very, very talented when it comes to fighting high-rise fires. This is what they do best. They've been trained for it and trained for it and trained for it, and today is the day they're going to have to use that training. Again, for you who are just joining us, we are showing you live pictures of the World Trade Centers. As you can see, they are on fire, both towers. The tower on the left is Tower 1. The tower on your right is Tower 2. We understand that two separate planes have hit the World Trade Centers. We are not sure if they if there was some kind of technical malfunction, if this was some type of other attack. We're not exactly sure what happened yet. We do know 2 separate planes. We feel that they are fairly substantial in size from initial reports. We do not know exactly what they were. But again, both towers are on fire. Tower 1 obviously suffering the biggest fire from what we can see at our vantage point. We are not able to move to a different point simply because the police have asked us to stay back so they can do the work that they need to do in this general area. They are setting up a general command center, or at least you would be expected for them to be able to do that, to be able to set up a general command center. Now then, high-rise packs are being used here. We have a cascade system, which is used to refill the air bottles. Air bottles carry to 30 to 45 minutes worth of air, as we just mentioned, and that's how they're going to have to use this because these fumes are very noxious. If you're somebody, again, watching from the World Trade Center, it's a good idea if you're in the middle of this fire to be sure and fill your door before you actually open it. If it is hot, it is better to leave the door closed than it is to open it and let the flame in. Also, it's better to hit the floor and not stand up. Smoke rises, and the smoke, of course, will go to the ceiling if you are watching this from the World Trade Center. Again, use the stairwell. Do not use the elevators. That is the worst thing that you can do. For those of you who are not in the World Trade Center and watching this down in Lower Manhattan, please turn off your water. Do not use any water you do not need. They will need all the water pressure they can possibly garner at this point. This is a tough place to battle. Obviously, if a jetliner hits or any type of plane hits an World Trade Center like this, there's going to be a lot of fuel on board possibly. That fuel is very difficult to put out, and of course all the other stuff inside the building itself, which is going to give quite a bit of fuel to this fire. Firefighters will probably issue an all-hands call. That means everybody who is available, including those who are off for the day, will be called in to battle this blaze. That is the highest of all alarms, higher than a general alarm, and that means firefighters from all over the area will be called to battle the blaze. Again, it will be an internal attack. They cannot do anything externally because of the height of this. It's the top portion of the World Trade Center, the very top portion of the World Trade Center. We have maybe, I would say it's probably the top 5th of the World Trade Center, Tower 1, and maybe the top half of World Trade Center 2. Again, we're not sure if both or one of the towers was hit by a plane, but we do know 2 separate planes hit the towers, and that has resulted in this battle of the blaze that we are watching right now. We do see flames in Tower 1. You can see it at the base of the smoke on the left, and we do know that there's some very serious fire which they're having to battle here today.
Okay, that was Melinda Murphy. You've been listening to Melinda Murphy live from Chopper 11. Over what you can see is a raging fire. 2 planes. Now, we just got this in. A senior government official, speaking on condition of anonymity, said that the FBI is now pursuing reports that one or both of the planes that crashed into the 2 towers of the World Trade Center were hijacked, and the crashes may have been the result of a suicide mission. And we should stress that these are preliminary reports, but the quote is from the FBI, it certainly does not look like an accident.
Now, the New York
Here's the plane. We're going to replay it. This is the 2nd plane that crashed into Tower 1. This happened just after 9 o'clock this morning. The first plane crashed in 18 minutes before. Again, the FBI now reporting that there were planes, maybe 1 or more, hijacked. The crashes may have been the result of a suicide mission.
All right, we're going to go to a witness that's on the ground. His name is Jeremy Fox. Jeremy, can you tell us what you know, what you've seen since 9 o'clock this morning? Jeremy, you're on live.
Hello?
Jeremy, can you hear me? Yes, can you hear me?
This is Nicholas.
Hi, Nicholas. I'm sorry. Nicholas, you're on live, WB11 Morning News. Can you just tell us what you are seeing and witnessing, and where are you?
I'm in my house right now. I'm looking out the window. After the first explosion, I was just looking at the first tower, and I was just like, wow, I was staring at it for a few minutes. And then I seen this second airplane. It was kind of close up to the building, and it looked like it really did know which way it wanted to go, and it crashed into the second Twin Tower building. It caused a massive explosion, and I was just like, it was just completely stunning. I'm still hearing like little explosions all around, like around my block, but I don't know what's really going on, but it was definitely a second airplane.
What kind of explosions are you hearing? Do you know?
Just little like dooms. I don't know, maybe that could be like results from the building, but...
Right. Nicholas, can you just tell us exactly where you're located? Obviously, you're not in... Where are you in the vicinity of the World Trade Center?
Well, I'm in the Lower East Side of Manhattan.
Lower East Side of Manhattan, and you heard this? Did you hear the plane flying low? Can you tell us?
Well, no, not really. After the first boom, I just heard the explosion.
All right,
I didn't really think nothing of it, and then I just went to the window and I just saw the plane coming, you know, towards the building.
Nicholas, what's the reaction in your neighborhood? You're right there. You're very close to it. What are people saying? What are their reactions?
Well, a lot of people on the ground don't even seem to notice because, I don't know, I guess the buildings are hindering their view.
Yes.
But I guess from the result in the hallway, I heard a lot of doors slamming and a lot of people were speaking in Spanish and, you know, screaming and everything. So I don't exactly know if everybody is informed. Right now, the channels, like Channel 11 isn't working on my TV, or none of the other channels are working, as a matter of fact.
And that's because a lot of the transmitters are off the World Trade Center,
Yeah.
and that's part of the problem.
The communication.
But the communications, yeah.
I also see a lot of people on the roofs, like, looking at it now. A lot
Yeah.
of people going to the roof.
Can you explain to us, when you saw that second plane come in, did you get a good look at it? Can you describe to us what the plane looked like?
Well, I was in the Air Force before, so I don't really exactly know what type of plane it was, but I know it was a black plane. It looked like a fighter jet.
It looked like a fighter jet.
It looked like a fighter jet. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
It was traveling extremely fast, so it definitely looked like it knew where it was going. It didn't look like it blew a thruster. It didn't look like, you know, something happened, like a malfunction. It definitely looked like it knew where it wanted to go.
How large was that plane? Could you tell?
Wow, it was maybe, wow, it was pretty big. And looking from my window, it's a pretty good distance. It's probably a good 30 miles away from the Twin Towers.
What went through your mind when you saw this going on?
Nothing, you know. It was just like, wow. I can't believe I'm actually seeing this in New York City, you know. So for this to actually happen, and it's still smoking.
Right. Now we're showing you, as we talk to you, Nicholas, we're showing a shot now of the second plane circling around. And as we see it, it actually goes around the back of our view and seems to go through the building.
Yeah.
It actually goes through the building, and you can see the second attack on the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center.
Can you describe that second explosion? Because when we were watching it, it was absolutely breathtaking. Did you hear a boom?
Definitely. I heard a loud explosion. I seen the building crash in, and all I seen was like a big mushroom cloud of fire and debris and smoke just totally rise up, and it was just like in levels. You seen the windows explode going down one by one, kind of, and it was just kind of like amazing in a way, but it's very shocking to see. I mean, you don't expect this kind of thing to happen every day in the Lower East Side.
Absolutely not. Nowhere in New York or even in this country.
We're,
I don't think we've
we're
witnessed
slow-moing
anything.
this,
This
Lynn.
is a slow-mo shot of the second plane to hit Tower 1 of the World Trade Center.
I was watching news earlier about the spy plane that crashed. Do you think that's maybe has something to do with this, or maybe they're tied together?
It's unclear right now, but we slow-mo this, and it did look like it went through, or partially through.
Right.
All right, we're going to go to,
we have another caller right now.
Well,
actually, you know, stay with us for a minute. Nicholas, can you stay with us for one more minute?
Sure, definitely.
All right. What are you seeing now in the aftermath from your view?
Well, from my view, the smoke is going left from my window. A lot more people on the roofs than before. I'm just seeing, well, from my window, I could see little chunks of debris coming down. I'm just seeing chaos. It's just unbelievable.
All right. Nicholas, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
All right, Lynn, we're going to go to Pat Kelly with the Office of Emergency Management in Westchester. Pat?
Yes.
Can you tell us what is going on? What is the very latest that you're hearing, sir?
What we're doing in Westchester is we're mobilizing in Westchester because we're assuming we're going to be backfilling and assisting in New York City. So we're preparing all of our fire, EMS, and emergency management people. We're opening our EOC, and a county executive staying on top of what we may be doing to assist New York with this tragedy.
Mm-hmm. And we know that you work in situations like this. What's the first thing that you tell people?
Situations like this, as much as you prepare, you can never prepare for something like this. I know the fire, the EMS, the emergency management people prepare for fires in large buildings, but something of this magnitude and something of this quick and over such a large area, there's no real way to prepare. You just drop back onto what you've trained for. You go and you try to assist the people as best you can, and they're going to use up their resources real quickly. New York City's got a lot of resources, but an incident like this is going to tax it to the maximum, so they're going to be wanting assistance from most everyone they can. So that's why we in Westchester, the county executive has ordered us to take and be prepared to go down and assist them.
All right, Pat, this is a huge building. We're talking about a building 101 stories.
110 stories.
110 stories high. Tell us what you think could be going on at this moment inside that building, what you think the situation is like since you deal with emergencies like this.
Yes, having worked in the fire service for 26 years and dealing with tall buildings, the at best, it's chaos. People that are on the fire floors, above the fire floors, are trying to get out. People are trying to get down. Fire departments are trying to get up to assist the people getting out and to mitigate the problem. Yet again, I'm sure in the back of their mind they're thinking, okay, is this the first wave of something that's going on? But they're going to go in and try to put the fire, or at least save as many people as they can, and then work on this. This is going to be a process that's going to go on for days. Buildings like this that have been on fire, they'll go on for days before they even get to getting them out. The biggest thing now is life safety and getting people out of that building that they can at the moment.
All right, thank you, Patrick. We're going to change now, switch gears. We're going to go to President Bush, who has a statement at this moment.
May God bless the victims, their families, and America. Thank you very much.
All right, the president taking a moment of silence, obviously.
Obviously taking a moment of silence. He was in Sarasota, Florida. That's President Bush. He was reading to children in a classroom around 9:05 when his chief of staff, Andrew Card, whispered into his ear. Apparently, the president paused for a moment, was obviously very stunned.
Yeah, they say he was visibly shaken by it and said that he would talk about it later. I'm sure he's got to be prepped as to what happened. All of us just stunned by what happened just after 8 o'clock this morning. The Twin Towers of the World Trade Center apparently under attack by 2 airplanes.
Just to give you some background on the World Trade Center, the World Trade Center is a large complex of 5 buildings consisting of 2 110-story towers. Now, there are 2 10-story buildings on the concourse. The towers and the concourse were completed in 1973. Each tower is 1,350 feet tall. It is second in height only to the Chicago Sears Tower. We're talking about people who work in the building. Just to give you some idea, the World Trade Center complex has 240 elevators,
right.
Lynn.
That's right.
48 other elevators that are just for the control room. And of course, what Melinda was saying, if you are in the building, you know, firefighters urge people to use the stairwell, not the elevators.
Do not
get
open
to the
windows.
ground.
Exactly.
Do not open the windows. It causes a funnel effect that just circulates the smoke into the building, making it just a tougher fight to get out. And that's what it is right now. It is a fight to get out of this building for a lot of people.
You can only imagine the panic inside that building at this moment. Now, we're going to take you back. This is a picture, once again, of the second plane that just crashed through the first tower of the World Trade Center. We're going to replay that for you. Here it is, the plane coming in to the right of your screen. And it flies apparently through the back of the building and crashes all the way through. You're about to see it now. There it goes. And you can see it come out on the other side, at least the flames coming out on the other side.
In Washington, officials say the FBI was investigating reports of a plane hijacking before the crash. There were no immediate word on injuries or fatalities in the twin disaster, which happened shortly before 9 this morning. Then around 9:18, the second tower was struck by bombers. Obviously, according to Nicholas, one of the witnesses that we spoke to on the phone, it was loud. It came in low. After it hit, there was lots of debris that was falling on the ground. And there again, you're watching the plane.
And also, we just saw President Bush speaking. He called it, quote, an apparent terrorist attack on our country. And you're looking at that attack unfold before your very eyes.
You know, Lynn, we saw this happen back in 1993, and a lot of people who saw it happen for the first time, a lot of people who experienced it, never thought it would happen again. Never. We prepare for these things. We prepare for New York City, which to many is the center of the UN, for one.
Right.
We've got the Empire State Building. We've got the World Trade Center. We've got so many landmark buildings that are so pivotal to the United States. We have the Statue of Liberty. Liberty Island is just across the river there.
But this houses many government offices, and it also is a communication center. Many people broadcast from the World Trade Center. So this serves a point to a terrorist who would try to make a point, I would assume. This, again, the second apparent terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. The other one we've been talking about back in 1993. That was a shock to the world. This even more incredible. And you're looking now at pictures of those who were convicted in that attack.
Okay, we're going to go to Harvey Kushner, who's a terrorism expert. Harvey, can you talk to us about what's going on? Obviously, President Bush coming out and saying that, and the FBI saying that they do believe that this is some sort of terrorist attack.
Well, you know, when you have something as serious as this, people sometimes like to reserve judgment, but they must have some type of information which leads them to believe that this is, in fact, not an accident, but, you know, an act of terrorism. Because considering, if you look out your windows in the studio, if you can, look how clear it is. Look at the trade towers. One plane possibly going off track, but not two. Yes. So it seems from the scenario that people have witnessed and from, you know, probably intelligence, the gathering sources, that this is a, you know, viable possibility.
Dr. Kushner, you were involved in the first attack. You worked on...
I was not involved in the
attack. You worked on probably the aftermath of it, who was responsible. Tell us what you did do in that.
I was involved really in a civil litigation against the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey for not doing the due diligence on the ground, protecting the B2 level in the trade towers, allowing a car, a truck in this case, to park with explosives. But this scenario, which is unfolding before our eyes here, you know, is something that I couldn't even have written. Nobody would have thought that this would have been possible. That if in fact it is a terrorist attack, that somebody would be able to take a plane. Supposedly one a jet and the other a smaller plane.
All right, we hate to cut you off,
Sure.
Dr. Kushner, but stay on the line if you will. We understand there is another plane heading for the World Trade Center, and there is a report that they may attempt to shoot it down.
Gotcha.
Continue to watch, stay on the line, tell us what your thoughts are right now.
Got it.
Dr. Kushner, we also want to tell you all bridges and tunnels obviously closed at this point.
Right.
Obviously, this is a preemptive strike to secure what they can secure for the police department, the terrorism squad. The Office of Emergency Management, what do they do in situations like this when it is absolute chaos?
Well, we've played tabletop exercises. We've painted scenarios. We went through scenarios of these types of events happening with a biological weapon. But I know of none that has taken really seriously the possibility of attack by aircraft in New York City. This was something that never was ruled out, but to be prepared for such a monumental occurrence is very difficult. Now, I could assure the people they shouldn't panic, those who are listening and heard the report, that if anybody is prepared for this type of a tragedy, New York City is indeed. And certainly, I would imagine, as we speak, the federal authorities, including the Air Force, the Army, are ready. And if, in fact, another plane is within the area of New York City, they're going to make a decision and to take the plane out.
Are you as stunned as most of us watching this at this point?
Well, yes, I am, because I could tell you, I've dabbled in the past with the thoughts of writing my memoirs or doing a novel, and I couldn't have come up with a doomsday scenario like this one. I mean, this is just off the page in terms of the planning that went into this, and just the nerve that somebody would have the temerity to take on the United States at the heart of the symbol of the United States is beyond belief. We've heard from time to time significant threats issued. Just the other day, the United States, the State Department issued a threat that Americans in Japan be aware of the possibility of an attack. But, nobody, I don't think anybody in the American government thought that, in fact, something like this could happen and would happen in New York City.
And we're looking at these pictures and they're just amazing, but we're forgetting that there are probably people in these buildings, innocent victims.
Absolutely. When you think in terms of the emergency services that are going to have to deal with people at the level, in terms of the trade tower, it's monumental. Then on top of that, this is going to have a psychological effect on people living in New York City that is going to be beyond belief. You're going to think of the shock that people who witness this firsthand will live in the area in the upcoming days. No matter how this turns out, if it turns out to be an act of terrorism, even worse. But even if it turns out to be an accident, the psyche of New Yorkers after September 11th, it'll never, ever be the same. And it's going to be very difficult to recover, normalcy after an event such as this. It's just, it goes beyond what we, those of us who report in the media and yourself have seen or could conjure up. It's just, you want to pinch yourself and say, is this really happening?
Right. Dr. Kushner, you said that you did have interaction with some of the victims of the last bombing, the families thereof,
right.
At the World Trade Center. What can you tell us? What do they go through? What did they experience at that time that some of the people today might be experiencing?
Oh, well, they went through post-traumatic shock syndrome. I mean, these people literally were at ground zero at the B2 level, and it just actually wrecked their lives. They were never the same after. It caused not only physical problems, but certainly mental problems, sleepless patterns, waking up in the middle of the night, revisiting what occurred. I was talking to a police officer at Port Authority who was just catapulted across his office during the bombing. He was left physically damaged for life. But the psychological scars were just traumatic. I knew many people who worked in the trade towers who wouldn't go back in the building, who wouldn't go back into tall buildings after that. So you could imagine now with this that not only do you have an attack, the vulnerability from underground, which everybody understood, you could park a car, but now something falling out of the ear. This is just off the map.
Dr. Kushner, the AP is now reporting that the first plane may have been hijacked after takeoff from Boston. It's 9:42. For those of you who are joining us now and looking at this eerie and ominous sight of the two towers of the World Trade Center engulfed in smoke, black smoke billowing. This is not a joke. This is very real. What's happening here? Where do we go from this point? How do we recoup?
I think people, all of us, stunned, shocked, and especially the latest information that just came over that Sukanya was telling you. He was.
The cause of this crash and what we are hearing right now. Excuse me, Lori, for not answering your question.
Okay.
Let me get right to this.
Jim, let me just, we just got word from the first plane. It was hijacked from Boston. That's what you were asking before.
To town in another half an hour, 40 minutes or so.
Well, it sounds to me like
Jane, we're just getting a report that there's been an attack on the Pentagon. This is the Pentagon. This is from the network. This is the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia.
These are pictures that have just come in to us here at News Channel 4. You are looking at live pictures of what appears to be an attack on the Pentagon. We can tell you nothing more than what you were looking at. This is approximately an hour ago that we had one airplane crash into the northern of the World Trade Center towers, and about 18 minutes later another airplane crashed into the southern of the towers, and now we have this.
We also hear that the first plane that hit the World Trade Center was apparently hijacked after takeoff from Boston. It means there's a very good possibility that that plane did have some passengers on board.
Do we know what kind of an airplane is it? What does it say? It doesn't say?
At this time, it does not say. It just says the first plane that hit the World Trade Center was hijacked after takeoff from Boston. That according to a U.S. official.
Now, according to the pilot that we had on a few minutes ago, he said that appeared to be a smaller jet, business type of jet.
Yes.
So perhaps it was some sort of a commuting airline or something like that. Let us go back and listen to what President Bush had to say a few moments ago. This was before this latest explosion at the Pentagon.
Today we've had a national tragedy. Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and I've ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand. And now, if you join me in a moment of silence. May God bless the victims, their families, and America. Thank you.
This was President Bush about 20 minutes ago. But now let us tell you that since that statement, there has been an explosion at the Pentagon, and we have on the wire now a story that says an Associated Press reporter saw the tail end of a large airliner plunge into the building. And
this is a live picture of the White House. We understand the West Wing has been evacuated. Again, the president is not at the White House in D.C. He is down in Sarasota. He was reading to a class of children at a school when he was told what happened, and that's where he held his press conference. But again, two planes have hit the World Trade Center, and now witnesses say just a few moments ago in Arlington, Virginia, another plane has plunged into the Pentagon.
And again, we have no information about exactly what happened down there, other than the fact that some sort of an aircraft has crashed near or into the Pentagon. So obviously, it is a day that we are witnessing something we have never seen before, and we don't know anything more about who's responsible for it than we have since the very beginning, which was about an hour ago, which was when the first aircraft,
as the president said, apparently a terrorist attack.
Exactly, and he has ordered full-scale investigations and has vowed to use every effort he can and that this country can to find out who is responsible and to bring them to justice. We have had numerous eyewitnesses who have talked about the airplanes that they saw literally smash into those two buildings about 18 minutes apart within the hour. And obviously it was something that they witnessed with shock and with horror. And we have nothing to tell you at this point about the number of injuries or the fatalities. We understand Mayor Giuliani is about to hold a press conference, and perhaps he will be able to give us some more information about all of that.
This just crossed about the Pentagon. An Associated Press reporter said he saw the tail end of a large airliner plunge into the building. He says smoke is billowing out of the Pentagon. So obviously now we're looking at the hijacking, probably, of 3 commercial airliners here in the United States. We know the first one that plunged into the World Trade Center came from the airport in Boston. And through a transmission, they learned that that plane was hijacked.
We should also warn those of you who are watching us that if you have plans to come into New York City today, you must cancel them. The city is literally shut down. The stock exchange has been closed. The airports are closed. The bridges, the tunnels, closed inbound and pretty much outbound.
Program of your choice.
From the building, I am told by several people that there was, in fact, an explosion. I was told by one witness, an Air Force enlisted, senior enlisted man, that he was outside when it occurred. He said that he saw a helicopter circle the building. He said that it appeared to be a U.S. military helicopter and that it disappeared behind the building where the helicopter landing zone is, and that he then saw a fireball go into the sky. I'm attempting to make my way around to that side of the building in my car right now to see if I can get a better visual perspective on the scene on that side of the building. But I can tell you that security has certainly clamped down. The U.S. Park Police, another federal law enforcement department, has arrived in force on the scene. There's a Park Police helicopter overhead. Every car that arrives at the gate where I was located was being stopped by officers at gunpoint. Everyone is being forced out of their vehicles as they arrive at the Pentagon. It's a very tense situation, obviously, but initial reports from witnesses indicate that there was, in fact, a helicopter circling the building, contrary to what the AP reported, according to the witnesses I've spoken to anyway, and that this helicopter disappeared behind the building and that there was then an explosion. That's about all I have from here.
Okay, let's do this, Chris. Why don't you continue reporting, and we'll pass along a couple of other things that we're picking up along the way. Trading at the New York Stock Exchange. The stock exchange, as many of you probably know, but some of you don't, is in that part of Lower Manhattan, not quite as far down as the Trade Center, but it is in that part of Lower Manhattan, and trading has been suspended there. Bridges and tunnels coming into New York have been closed. That will create a whole different set of problems. We are also being told that the FAA has suspended takeoffs and landings, and I want to make sure I get this right, guys, that at all airports around the country. air travel in this country has come to a halt this morning, as clearly people in government, police forces, fire departments are trying to figure out what exactly is going on. There are several now incidents that look, for all that we can tell, to be a major terrorist attack here in the United States. So all airports all across the country are closed. All bridges and tunnels coming into Manhattan are closed. The Pentagon has been evacuated, or is being evacuated. The White House is being evacuated. The president, who is in Sarasota today to make a speech on education, has spoken briefly to cameras and will shortly make his way back to Washington. They are checking out Air Force One now. Let's go to Atlanta. Chad Myers can talk to us a bit about the air traffic problems. Chad, are you there?
Aaron, yes. All of the airports across the country have been shut down. We started with Zone New York, which includes Islip, Newark, JFK, LaGuardia, all the way down to Philadelphia, and then IAH, Houston, and then San Francisco, and then LA. They were just falling like a deck of cards, and then all of a sudden the FAA just said, we're shutting down everything. All flights have been canceled for another 7 hours, which is about 5 o'clock Eastern time, and then we'll reignite there. We'll take a look what's going on after that. The probability of extension, as they call that, is high, which means even after 5 o'clock, the airports may still be shut down. We'll keep watching it for you here from Atlanta.
Chad, and if you don't know, just say you don't know. Can you recall a situation where every airport in the country had been shut down?
Absolutely not, except in wartime, of course, Aaron, and obviously this is not that. But with all the airports, as they were going down from west to east, we could see them, and then we could eventually see from New York, and then they canceled Boston, as we got the report that the first flight, or one of the possible hijack flights, did come out of Boston, and then it just started going down from there. But never, ever before have we ever seen all of the airports shut down like this, not this quickly.
Chad, thank you. Stay on this for a while. We'll get back to you. We know that many people are just joining us. We want to get everyone on the same page before we move on. So one more time, let's go through the sequence of events. At about 8:45 Eastern Time, a plane crashed into the foremost of those towers that are the World Trade Center. That's Air Force One you see in Florida, the president on board. Obviously extraordinary security around the plane before the president got on, and the president is heading back to Washington. A short time ago, the president made a statement. He said, terrorism against our nation will not stand. The government will hunt down those responsible. Mr. Bush said today, we've had a national tragedy. 2 planes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on the country. And we also have a report now that it was a plane that crashed into the Pentagon, and we have a large fire at the Pentagon. The Pentagon is being evacuated as we speak now. The White House has been evacuated as well. CNN's John King joins us on the phone. John.
Aaron, I'm standing in Lafayette Park directly across from the White House, perhaps about 200 yards from the White House residence itself. The Secret Service has pushed most people all the way back to the other side of the park, trying to avoid having that done to me at the moment. Just moments ago, they started slowly evacuating the White House about 30 minutes ago, and then in the last 5 minutes, people have come running out of the White House and the old Executive Office building, which is the office building right directly across from the White House. About 10 minutes ago, there was a white jet circling overhead. Now, you generally don't see planes in the area over the White House. That is restricted airspace. No reason to believe that this jet was there for any nefarious purposes, but the Secret Service was very concerned, pointing up at the jet in the sky. It is out of sight now, best we can tell, but they've evacuated the entire White House staff and the old Executive Office, as well as some townhouses that are government offices. Many of our viewers might know Blair House, where other international leaders stay when they are in Washington. That block of townhouses has been evacuated as well, and they are pushing us now back toward H Street, which is the next main street to the north from Pennsylvania Avenue across from the White House.
Okay, John, hang on one second. We're also getting reports at the Capitol, the Treasury building also being evacuated. John, is this evacuation from the White House, was it orderly? Did it seem panicky? How would you characterize it?
It started off as orderly, much like we get when there are occasional bomb scares near the White House, but then, again, in the last 10 minutes or so, the people who came out the last Several hundred I saw leaving the grounds were told and ordered by the Secret Service to run. They were running through the gates. These are, of course, professionals in business suits. I'm also told that prior to that, and we don't know the current situation, that the Vice President and other administration officials on the scene were meeting in the White House Situation Room, which is in the basement of the White House. Whether they have stayed on the complex or not is unknown to us at this moment. I spoke to an administration official shortly after the President delivered his statement, who said obviously the operating assumption here is terrorism. The initial assumption, this official said, was that this had something to do, or at least they were looking into any possible connections with Osama bin Laden. The administration recently released a warning that they thought Osama bin Laden might strike out against U.S. targets.
Just to add, John, a bit to what you've been saying, we're getting a report from Associated Press now that the White House was evacuated after the Secret Service received what AP is describing as a credible, a credible threat of a terrorist attack against the White House itself. And I expect you'll be checking that out. We'll try and confirm that, but that's what AP is reporting right now. Again, this all began about an hour and 15 minutes ago here in Lower Manhattan when the first of two planes crashed in to the first of the two towers behind me at the World Trade Center, and you can see the smoke billowing out of the front tower now. And then about a half an hour later, just as emergency crews were converging on the scene, as eyewitnesses were gathering on the street corners, a second plane drove in too, and you can see that plane coming around the building right now in this tape, and there you can see the hit as it comes through what looked to me, at least, and this is the first time I've seen that tape, come through the back side of the tower. I guess that would be the south side of the tower, and then the smoke and flame coming out the front side. Again, that was about a half hour after the first attack, which was at about 8:45. Look, you want to be careful here. We don't want to get too far ahead of this, but obviously this has all the appearances of an extraordinarily well-coordinated and devastating terrorist attack here in the United States. Certainly nothing like it since Oklahoma City, and nothing like it here in New York since the terrorist attack on the same World Trade Center buildings in February of 1993. At the Pentagon, a plane or a helicopter has crashed, apparently as part of whatever this operation has been, and Jamie McIntyre is there. Jamie, what are you hearing?
Well, Aaron, there is a lot of confusion here at the Pentagon. It appears that something hit the Pentagon on the outside of the 5th corridor, on the Army corridor. Several Army officers I talked to reported hearing a big explosion, seeing shards of metal coming past their window. The Pentagon has been evacuated. Emergency services personnel were rushing to reports of several people trapped in the building. Most of the building's 24,000 people are outside of the building or in the center courtyard as emergency teams try to sort out what has happened here. There is, of course, thick black smoke billowing from the scene. There's a lot of confusion. The Defense Protective Service, which is the police force here in the Pentagon, has been urging people to get out of the building and move away from the scene so they can handle the emergency situation. Again, it appears that an aircraft of some sort did hit the side of the Pentagon, the west front, which faces sort of toward Arlington National Cemetery. It's a corridor where a lot of Army offices are located.
Wow.
And some people were...
Jamie, I need you to stop for a second. There has just been a huge explosion. We can see a billowing smoke rising, and I'll tell you that I can't see that second tower, but there was a cascade of sparks and fire, and now it looks almost like a mushroom cloud explosion, this huge billowing smoke in the second tower. This was the second of the two towers hit. And I cannot see behind that smoke, obviously, as you can either. The first tower in front has not changed, and we see this extraordinarily and frightening scene behind us of this second tower, now just encased in smoke. What is behind it, I cannot tell you. But just look at that. That is about as frightening a scene as you will ever see. Again, this is going on now in two cities. We have a report that there is a fire at the State Department as well. and that is being evacuated. So we've got fires at the Pentagon evacuated, the State Department evacuated, the White House evacuated on the basis of what the Secret Service describes as a credible terrorist threat. We have 2 explosions, 2 planes hitting the World Trade Center here in New York, and what this second explosion was that took place about a part of the south, that would be the South Tower, has apparently collapsed. We don't know if that was from the impact of this first plane that hit it or whether something else has happened there. We'll work on that. Our Washington Bureau Chief, Frank Sesno, is on the phone. Frank, what are you hearing?
Aaron, I just drove past the Pentagon across the 14th Street Bridge, which is now choked with traffic. We're beginning to hear emergency sirens and rescue personnel fanning out across Washington. There is a gigantic black billowing cloud of smoke that is rising over the Pentagon. You heard Jamie McIntyre a moment ago describe where that was coming from. I can also tell you that local radio, in addition to talking about evacuations, as we've heard at the Pentagon, the White House is reporting that the Capitol building has been evacuated and the Treasury Department has been evacuated. Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, is exceptionally tense and clearly taking steps as if it is virtually.
I can say that it is imploding.
Yes.
It is imploding and coming to the ground 110 stories.
In front of our eyes.
Obviously, our thoughts are that
with the people who may have been inside at the time this happened, and how and who and why.
Absolute devastation. You're looking at a live picture of Lower Manhattan here.
The landscape just completely
vanished.
Gone. Oh. And what a beautiful, clear, incredible day this started out as. And it has turned into a day of just complete devastation.
And of course, Lynn, a lot of people living in the surrounding boroughs, I'm sure because it is such a clear day, can stand outside
and see it
and
witness
see
it.
what's unfolding before our very eyes as the two of us are watching this.
And everyone with us here in the studio, it's just incredulous because no one would imagine that this could happen anywhere, let alone here in New York City. We're also being told that, again, at this point, most public places of transportation have been shut down. All airports shut down. Penn Station shut down.
Also, other government institutions, including the Treasury and the State Department, are being evacuated in Washington, D.C. Paul Begala, according to the AP, a Democratic consultant, said he witnessed an explosion near the Pentagon. He described it as a huge fireball, a huge orange fireball. He said another witness told him that a helicopter exploded. We are going to go once again
to the explosion that just occurred. And this, again, is the first tower of the World Trade Center, Twin Towers. It's folding before your eyes.
We first reported to you that there were reports of a first plane that may have been hijacked from Boston. Now we're hearing that that second plane may have. These are reports now. This is unconfirmed, that this report is saying that the second plane may have come from Newark Airport. And as a result,
and that's what we saw, and that's what we're looking at as smoke now just covers Lower Manhattan, almost as far to the end of Manhattan Island as you can get, is where the trade centers are. The Sears Tower in Chicago has been evacuated, and we continue to check.
What you're seeing right now.
Everything is white outside my window. What happened, I saw the second building blow, and it just crumbled down, and I saw the core of the building slowly crush to the ground, fall to the ground. Out my window now, I can see nothing. Everything is white. What I saw before was people running in front of the hospital, running all over on the streets, running away from the west side, because I live on the east side, close to the FDR. Everything outside is pure white. You can't see a thing. I live across the yard from me, about 100 yards, is another building. I can't see 2 feet in front of me. I had to close my windows because it's so smoky down here.
What are the people around you saying? What's the reaction around you in that neighborhood?
Pure horror, it seems like. It seems like people are running away for their lives, like they don't know what's going on. Pure confusion. I myself, I don't know. I live so close. I'm like, I can't imagine what just happened. I'm like,
where do you live, Jeremy, for the folks who are just tuning in?
I live on Gold Street, right across from the Beekman Hospital, where they're taking all the patients.
Jeremy,
I saw them bring a lot of patients in before.
Jeremy, obviously, can you please tell us, I mean, we were watching the tower go down. Can you please describe to us, on the ground, what did that look like?
I'm not on the ground. I'm on the 26th floor of a building across the way. Right now, you can see nothing outside. When it went off, the second building, you saw an explosion, and then you just saw a humongous cloud of smoke go up, and you saw the building start to fall down, and then you saw the core of the building just start to disintegrate into itself. There's ashes on my terrace everywhere. You can't see a thing. The smell is horrible. I smell smoke everywhere.
Did it look like an implosion that internally, was it that when the plane crashed, I mean, was there another explosion inside that vicinity of that area, almost like we're speculating here, possibly a bomb?
I couldn't, the second building, both buildings were just burning, and like they're constantly burning. And then right below the left building, the one without the news tower, the satellite tower, it just looked like an explosion below where it was burning, and then it just came down.
All right, Jeremy, you were telling us before that you saw the ambulances going to the hospital. Describe what that was like.
It was horrific. There were men in, they had beds lined up outside the emergency room waiting for patients. They were bringing them in cars, not in ambulances anymore, as well as ambulances. They were people coming in on stretchers. They just looked, shaken and horrible. I mean, I'm on the 26th floor and I looked at it. Now you cannot see 2 inches in front of your face if you're on the street right now. People downstairs must be in pure havoc. I mean, you can't see anything outside.
Jeremy, you must be fearing for your own life at this point. You're so close to it.
I'm very nervous. I'm not happy about, this at all. I'm scared for everyone around and involved. I can't imagine what the destruction that just caused for people. I'm very nervous. Everyone in my family, as you can hear, my phone is ringing, is calling to make sure I'm okay. I'm scared as could be.
You were reporting also that you're not able to get any broadcast. Is that right?
No, I'm getting your broadcast right now. I'm getting the only channel that's not coming in is Channel 9. Every other channel is coming in. You're coming in on WB11, and you can see the smoke, and the right building is still burning.
Jeremy, what's the first thing you saw earlier?
The first thing I heard was I felt a boom next to my window, and that woke me up and got me out of bed. Then I heard ambulances and cars coming, and I went to look out my window, and I was watching and I was on the phone with one of your news staff reporters as the smoke is starting to clear. I'll walk out on my terrace. Hold on. Oh my God, there's debris everywhere. It's horrible. You can't see. There's white powder everywhere. On my terrace, on the ground, everywhere. This is like a war zone, I assume. I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Is it tough for you even to breathe?
Now it is. I'm going back into my apartment.
All right.
Then I was watching, and as I was watching, the plane must have come from the other side because I saw the second building blow. It looked more like an outward explosion because the plane came from the other side, and I saw that pure explosion and took pictures of it. Now there's another.
What was going through your mind while you were doing all of this, Jeremy?
The horror that people are going through right now, the families that are losing people right now, and there's another plane. No, there's a helicopter. The horror that families are going through, that people are going through right now, the confusion, that people don't understand what's going on right now. I don't understand what's going on right now. The insecurity that I feel.
Military or non-military emergency response. The White House Situation Room is a bomb shelter, for that matter. That part of the White House is a bomb shelter. Whether or not they have stayed in there is unclear. We know in the past that would be the routine. We just do not have a direct answer as yet because most of the staff, if not all of the staff, has been evacuated from the premises.
So I gather you're just you're not able to get any calls into the building right now, or at least not getting them answered at this point.
Calls you get into the building are not answered at this point. And more fire apparatus showing up now as we speak. We saw most of the senior staff come out. We have not seen the national security staff that we would recognize anyway, but I should note there are other gates from the White House. We are on the north side, and this is
John, you're being drowned out by the sirens. Alan Dotz-Frank of our Bureau here in New York joins us on the phone. Alan, where are you?
Hi, Aaron. Our colleague Jennifer Westhoven also just arrived. She was closer to the building. I'm just south of Canal Street, about 10 blocks north of World Trade Center. And just before 10 o'clock, parts of the building began peeling away. People started screaming. Jennifer tells me, because she was a little closer to the building, that the police began yelling, "Run, run," and thousands of people started running away from the buildings as they were falling. That was, of course, followed by a onrush of ambulances and special police vehicles. Some people have told us, although I can't confirm this, that dozens of stories of the building have fallen away, maybe down as low as the 30th floor.
Let's get him, Mike. And again, just because we lost a little bit at the beginning, where are you physically now? This is
I'm
the
just south
tape.
of the Holland Tunnel in downtown Manhattan, perhaps 10 to 15 blocks north of the World Trade Center.
Got it. And the pictures that our viewers are looking at, this was that collapse of the South Tower just a few minutes ago here in New York.
Yes, and moments after that, people began running toward us. Jennifer Westhoven, who normally is at the Stock Exchange, was only about 5 blocks away, and she saw the same thing.
Alan, thank you. Let me go to one of New York's deputy mayors, Randy. Former deputy mayor. What are you hearing, Randy?
I only know what I have seen on television. I've tried to talk to some friends.
Hand me the, here we go. Hand me the microphone. There we go.
I only know what I've heard on television. I've tried to speak to some friends. Obviously, phone lines, communication is difficult. You know, nothing prepares you in life for a senseless tragedy like this one, but there is no city better prepared to deal with such emergency situations than New York City.
Tell me, based on the plan, what is happening 30 blocks away?
Sure. Mayor Giuliani established early on an Office of Emergency Management to coordinate all the government agencies involved. So you have coordinated leadership of police, fire, health, all the city agencies responding to that emergency. They've planned for this kind of event. Unfortunately, this is not a unique occurrence in the life of New York City or our country. Tragedies like this
may
have
not
happened.
be a unique occurrence, but it is a very rare and extraordinary one.
It is extraordinary,
Right.
and therefore, in New York City, we have coordinated response, and they're responding now and providing every help that they can under these extraordinary circumstances.
Hang on one second. We have a report now of an explosion on Capitol Hill, and we are checking that out. We have a report of a plane crashing at the Pentagon being evacuated, fire on the mall in Washington, the State Department evacuated, and we have all flights shut down across the country as officials sort out what's happening here. Randy, back to you for a second. How much of the
Little confusion. What is this? How did it happen? Why did this happen?
The also should mention, Lynn, that the towers and or the tunnels and the bridges are closed as well. And I want to tell you, from just having been out there a moment ago, if you're in Manhattan, just don't go outside.
No.
Don't try to take any kind of a vehicle. Any kind of public transportation. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a matter of time before some of the public transportation is grounded as well.
Exactly. And if you're looking at this right now, and if you live in the area, we are being told that you should not go outside. You should not breathe in fumes because some of these fumes could be noxious. Obviously, that's not what people would first react to, but you have to take care. Right now you're looking at a live shot of the Pentagon burning. Another plane crashed into the Pentagon shortly after the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center came under fire from two what appear to be terrorist plane attacks, planes that were hijacked, one again from Boston Airport, the other from Newark Airport. This is again the live shot of the Pentagon. Back here live to New York City. You're only looking at one remaining tower of the World Trade Center. The first is no longer. It has crashed to the ground. It's collapsed, and now there is fear that the second tower may do the same.
The airlines, the FAA, has issued its first ever in this country national ground stop, meaning all airports are closed. Here's the second plane hitting the second tower.
And it's horrifying. As you watch, it comes right through that tower from the back. And the fiery explosion. And we have no idea how many people were in that building at the time that this happened. No idea how many had been evacuated. No idea what the casualties might be on the ground, but here's the tower once again collapsing, and this happened maybe 15 minutes ago. And there it is, crumbling to the ground. Unbelievable. Now, we had somebody on the phone just recently talking about people being taken to area hospitals, and he was saying it was beyond ambulances at this point. People were being taken in cars to hospitals. So obviously the damage is great. The casualties, many
and of
down
course
there.
now the problem in lower Manhattan and through